Hello, and welcome to Cinema Chat, the show where we give a sophisticated commentary on some of cinema's finest films while we drink wine. I'm your host, David Lee, and today we are enjoying a beautiful Montepulciano from Abruzzo. Today we'll be discussing the 1965 classic Faster Pussycat Kill Kill by Russ Myers. Just a little heads up on Russ Myers, army photographer in World War II, and then when he came back, he was making industrial films. And then after that, he parlayed into a photographer at Playboy, as well as producing a lot of pornographic films, which is pretty evident in his style of filmmaking. But a lot of his films feature very strong female characters, as well as very sexualized versions of female characters. So a lot of people think of him as a feminist film, or as an exploitation film. You be the judge. Shall we begin? Let's start. The shit these people say. It's just bizarre. The movie starts off with this really bizarre prelude voice guy talking about this new breed of woman.
This new breed, encased and contained within the supple skin of woman. The softness is there, the unmistakable smell of female.
And she's a violent woman, and she's a dangerous woman, and she could be any woman you know.
One might be your secretary, your doctor's receptionist.
But no, they're strippers. You know, I was a go-go dancer for a short time in New York City, and so I feel like I could say this. My moves weren't any better than theirs. They're not the best go-go dancers I've ever seen, but the customers seem to like it. So we have our three main characters. We have my girl Billy. We have Rosie, who's played by apparently my college roommate in Italy, who always yells at me. She's always very mad at me. Ciao, mama. And then we have Varla, played by Tura Satana. And Varla kind of just has this chip on her shoulder that we don't really know why, but she's always at a 10. She's never gonna bring it down. So just get used to that. So the women are driving through the desert, and the cars are bouncing and the sky's not moving. So Billy decides that she wants to just veer off from everybody else and take a dip. Billy pulls over and she jumps into the river with her jeans on, just so we all know that she's a sociopath. This kind of irks Varla, so she tells Rosie to go in and get her. Billy's having the best time swimming in her jeans. It's a gas.
Oh, it's the gas!
Oh yeah, and when Billy jumps into the lake, they put the sound of a bowling ball hitting pins. So Rosie goes in and gets her, and then they start fighting, and the fight rolls over into the sand, and Rosie and Billy are fighting. I don't know who these three are really, and I don't know why they're all hanging out together. But anyway, so they're fighting, and Marla's just watching, and she's like, you know what? Break it up. I've seen better fighting in a preschool or something like that. So she's like, you want to see who's really brave? Let's play chicken. And chicken's that game, where you run your cars towards each other, and then you're supposed to crash head on, and the first person who bails out loses. They're the chicken. Billy and Rosie bail out first. So now we establish the hierarchy. Varla is in charge. She's the HBIC. And I also wondered to myself, I think that there's a little something going on between Varla and Rosie. I think they might be a couple. I don't know, just saying. I'm getting those vibes. Alright, so Billy's just kind of like, okay, you got a weird way of getting your knocks off. And Varla's like, hey, get a beer. And my girl, you don't have to tell her twice. She's gonna go get that beer. And then she just starts dancing, and then Rosie's like, why are you dancing? You're not at work. And Billy's always like,
my motor never runs down, baby. And besides, you're such a wonderful audience.
And so she's dancing, and what happens? But a car pulls up, and out comes Tommy. And Tommy's like this really cute, all-American boy, Colgate smile with dimples that you can ski off of. So we find out that Tommy's there because he likes to race his car, and he's with Linda, who is just this little innocent. You think Tommy's innocent? Wait till you see Linda.
Driving fast? Driving fast is fun, honey.
I don't know why I worry about him. He's the champion of our car club and first in safety points, too.
And so they came out there to race their car, but they time it, they race a clock. Varla's like, who races clocks? And Tommy's like, it's fun, let's do it. And she's like,
I don't beat clocks, just people.
and he's like, okay, that's weird. So the four of them all decide to race each other. And Linda's like, is everyone ready? And of course, Billy's like,
Honey, I'm always ready.
like, go relax. Okay, so there's this big race scene. And you know what? Like, I'm just kind of like this little gay guy from Manhattan, so I don't know the difference between a Honda and a hemorrhoid, so it was kind of hard for me to follow this race. The cars kind of look the same, but what I think I understood is that they're racing around this thing, tires things. There's a lot of screeching. The tires screech on sand, which apparently is not a thing. I think Tommy's winning, and Varla is not cool with this. Varla cuts off Billy, and Billy passes out. And things just kind of escalate from here. And then they get in this fight, and she, what did they call it, Mr. 1960s movie trailer guy?
Unladylike karate chops.
Varla's giving him these like unladylike karate chops to the kidney. There was a time in college where I worked at Outback Steakhouse, and like me and this like one guy would like punch each other in the kidneys to see who would pee blood first. Fucking straight guys are stupid, man. Anyway, so she gives him the unladylike karate chops to the kidneys, and holy shit, she kills Tommy! Tommy was such a nice boy. Anyway, so was Linda because she passed out, and they take her. So we pull up to the gas station, and we see that Varla has Linda, and Linda's passed out. We meet this gas station attendant who, I'm told he's speaking English.
You guys really must be moving on these little machines.
So Billy and Rosie are like, oh my god, what just happened? And Varla's like, oops, sorry. You guys are accomplices. So she's like, we're all in this together. And they're like, fine, whatever. Okay, so now Billy's being accused of being an accomplice to murder, but that doesn't stop her wandering eyes from seeing this hunk of meat walking down the street. She's like, ooh, who is that? And the gas station attendant tells us that that's the vegetable. He's this dumb guy, don't talk much. That does not move the needle for her at all because Billy likes him big and stupid. Who doesn't like a dumb lunk? Ooh, look, there's the dad. And the gas station attendant tells us that this is the dad. He fell in the train tracks after saving a girl who fell in the train track. And so he lost his ability to walk. That's why he hates women. But he hates everybody and everybody hates him. Oh, and he got a ton of money from the settlement from getting hit by the train. And that rings off Varla. Varla's like, ooh, we have a mission, ladies. So anyways, we follow them to the farmhouse where they pull up and we see that Linda's finally awake. Rosie gets out of her car. She has hair in her mouth, I guess. I don't know why they had to keep that shot. It must have been an expensive shot, or maybe it meant something. Varla comes up with this idea.
Her boyfriend was killed in a racing accident. She flipped.
Not quite a lie.
Ran away from home. Her family's big socially and doesn't want any publicity, so they asked us to find the girl. We found her.
So basically they're like Dogman, the bounty hunter kind of thing. They're bounty hunters. She goes to the house. Now we're looking inside the house where we meet the family. We got Pa. We've got the vegetable, who is of mice and menning this cat. And we have Kirk. The dad is saying like he doesn't really trust Kirk because Kirk is being really distant, and he thinks that Kirk's trying to steal his money. He spent a lot of money on books with no pictures. What do you do with that? What do you do with pictureless books? Read it? I don't think so. So Varla's watching from the window, and Kirk catches him, and he says, "Did you get a good show?" or something like that. And then Dad and the veggie come out, and they're like, "What are you doing out here in these pots?" Varla's like,
My girlfriends and I have been driving all day. We thought this was a deserted ranch. Spotted the water tower, and we were running a little hot. So we thought we'd take on a little water. We're not used to this desert drive.
And the dad, he says this line about they let them smoke the boat, drive.
They've even put them in pants. So what do you get? A Democrat for president.
I guess that's what happens when you get a Democrat in the office. Women can smoke and drive and vote. And gay guys can get drunk on camera and make videos about movies. This wouldn't happen in Trump's America. So she's like, oh, you know what? My friends are waiting for me. If I'm gone too long, they're going to get worried. And then he walks away and he says like,
She's a cold one, all right. More stallion than mare. It's too much for one man to handle. And again, you never can tell. She might just gentle down real nice with the right halter.
Varla can't be tamed. So we get back to Linda and Billy and Rosie. Billy is in the shower, having a gas.
Oh, this is such a gas!
And Linda's like, let me go, I'll do anything. And they're like, yeah, sure, it's totally fine, we get it. And Rosie just, it's like, yo, why don't we just GTFO? But Varla is like, nah, we gotta get that money. I guess she wasn't doing well enough as a stripper, and honestly, neither did I. So I kind of understand Varla's sentiments in this moment. And then, like, Dad rolls up, and he's just like,
You girls a bunch of nudists, or you just, short of clothes?
speaking of which, it's fucking hot! Okay. He's like, why was she tied and gagged? I don't know how he saw this, because he shouldn't have seen this. It just doesn't make any sense. She gives him the runaround, the story about the high-profile dad, and, like, he doesn't believe her. Varla doesn't believe that he believes her, and Billy just wants to get with the vegetable. So the old man's like, hey, I don't want you to think that I'm being rude. You ladies wash up, and then we'll make you lunch and send you on your way. And Varla's like, oh, that's really nice of you. Do we have to slip into anything a little bit more formal, or can we stay comfortable? Looking at those panty lines, that does not look comfortable. Those jeans look so tight and hot. So they accept the lunch invitation, and Varla's like, this is our chance to get in and find out where the money is. The old guy gets away, and then he goes on like this really crazy rant.
That young'un, tender as a cottontail. And we gotta save her from those girls, boy. You hear me now? We got to save her.
So Linda and Billy show up, and they're talking to the old guy, and he's like, oh, now that your friends are gone, like, you know, what's going on? And Billy is just like, what's going on with Vegetable? Like, was he hatched like that? The old man's like, hey, why don't you show him how you got so big? So they do that. So Veggie takes her to the other side, where she gets the pleasure of watching him work out. Billy's idea of a good date, is just to watch some lunkhead lift weights and not say anything to her. And I agree with you, Billy.
What you need is a manager. Yeah. 10% of your action be enough for anyone. I never took no course in anatomy, but from what I can see, you got 2 of everything and some left over.
She has the most bizarre dialogue, but the most amazing dialogue in this scene. It's not really a dialogue, they don't talk to each other. He is just not biting. So Billy, she just puts it all out on the table. And she's like, yo!
Look, me Jane, you Tarzan. Now why don't you drop that tree you're holding and let's grab a vine and swing a little, huh?
But then we hear a scream. And we find that the old man fell off of his thing and that Linda escaped. Billy's like, what happened? Where is he? And he goes, that girl's psycho. She's like, we gotta find her or I'm gonna get fucking murdered. So she and the vegetable go out to find Linda. She's running through the desert. And of course she runs into Clark. Clark? Kirk. Whatever. And she's like, you gotta help me, thank you, sir. And she's like, they killed him. And he's like, who killed them? And she's like, these girls, they killed him, they're vicious, they're horrible women. And he's just like, ooh. I know the vegetable is supposed to be dense, but like, Kirk is not the brightest light on the chandelier either, and all those bulbs are dead. He was like, okay, well, let me just take you home. So she gets in the car with him, stranger danger, and he drives her back to the house. She goes, no, this is where those awful women... Pay attention to what I'm saying right now, please. She says, these awful women killed my boyfriend. My boyfriend is dead. They're vicious women. And yeah, so pay attention. So then he drives her home. And she's like, why are you here? This is where those girls are. And he goes,
This is my home.
You live here? And that old man?
It's my father.
You wanted to put me out!
she tries to escape from the car where Varla catches her and she's screaming that they're murderers. And Clark is just kind of looking around. It's got to be like the worst case of diffuse responsibility syndrome ever. Kirk really drops the ball on this one. Kirk is just like, Dad, what is going on? So he gives him the story that Varla said, and I guess he's passing on the lie. So then we cut over to Billy and the veggie who are taking time away from their busy schedule of looking for Linda to pork in the desert. And a train goes by, and the train like freaks out the vegetable, and he's freaking out, and he's screaming, and Billy's like, hey, what's going on? Come on. Yeah, it's a train. Great, let's do this. And he can't do it. And she goes,
What you got? Some big thing for trains? I'll buy you one.
it's like, no, you're not. So the veggie's like, every time a train passes, Dad freaks out. So we come back to Dad. Kirk, who somehow was able to run to the grocery store. Maybe he had it with him the entire time. So the dad reaches in, pulls out a bottle of whiskey, and just starts chugging. And he's like, isn't it a little too early? And he says, everything's off schedule today. And he punches himself in the leg. So anyways, now it's time for lunch. And we are in the most bizarre lunch scenario where the dad is trying to pimp out his kids, which I think is just like really creepy. Viola decides that she wants to start kind of like getting cute with Kirk. And the dad's like, you know, he cooks just as good as his mom. And Viola's like,
He doesn't sew too, does he?
Only his wild oats, honey.
gross. It's so creepy. And then there's this part where like Billy goes just a really long way to ask for some whiskey.
Mr. Host, I'm of legal age for whiskey, voting, and loving. Now the next election's 2 years away, and my love life ain't getting much better. So how about some of that good 100%?
I'm glad for the company.
They're all chatting, and Billy runs her mouth a little too much, and Varla just gives her the back of her hand. And that's when Linda's just like, this lady's a psychopath. She murdered Tommy. And everyone's just kind of like looking around and not doing anything about it. So the old man, for some reason, thinks that this is an appropriate time to talk about like death and murder. Like,
This house knows what killing can do and how easy it can happen accidentally. He killed when he was born, without knowing it.
and that's why he hates him. And everyone's like super kind of like uninterested. Like, we didn't just accuse Varla of murdering somebody directly. And Varla turns to Kirk as if nothing ever happened. And she's like, I want to talk to you outside. And he's like, okay. So they go outside. And Billy is like wasted.
When I've had enough of this stuff, it's been known to be passing out time. And it's just about passing out time. Whoops.
Oops. So we're outside, and like Kirk and Varla are slamming in the hay. Despite the behavior and accusations that he just experienced with Varla, decides it's a good idea to just go for it. Then Rosie finds out that Billy got drunk and passed out, as she said she would. She's so self-aware. And Linda once again got away. So Linda is once again running through the streets of the desert. And so like the old man and the veggie are like chase her down, and they catch her, and they're fighting in the sand. And it's at this point where you're just like, today is not her day. So Kirk and Varla come by, and they find her too. The veggie's like, oh, I can't do it. And Kirk's like, you know what? It's okay. I got you. We're gonna get you some help. It's fine. So everybody's crying. Everybody's feeling bad about themselves. And Varla's like,
I've made some funny scenes before, but this cops it. You got to win it, the big award. What's it called, Gulliver? I love everybody? Or something from my childhood?
ha ha ha. So Kirk's like, Linda, let's get out of here. You know, I'm taking the car, Dad. And the dad's like, good luck driving without the keys. And Kirk's like, what? And he goes, I threw the keys away. And Kirk is like, I hate you, Dad. You're a horrible person. I hope you die out here. Like a pretty extreme jump. But Dad was right. Kirk doesn't like him. He's like, you know what? Screw you. I don't need the car. I don't need the keys. we're gonna walk. And Varla's just like, okay, I can drive you. And then Linda finally like gets the gall and she's like,
Don't you touch me. I don't care how long or far it takes. I'd rather crawl than... Please, let's go.
so they leave and Varla's like, okay, we'll see you, old man. And he's like, nah, I'll never see you again. Like, but then we find out that the old man has the keys the entire time. So he's like, he says to the veggie, let's go. Varla gets back to Billy and Rosie and she's like, guys, let's just kill them all. And Billy's like, nah, I'm done with this. Deuces. So she starts walking away and they got Billy! Oh, Billy. So Billy's dead and the old guy and the veggie come back and he's like, y'all best be leaving. And Varla's like, we can tell when we're not wanted. And he's like, girl, you were never wanted. And then she says to Rosie, drive and don't miss. So then Varla and Rosie and the old man have this really low speed car chase scene. But there's a slight groove in the ground and he can't make it up. So Varla and Rosie play chicken with the old man. I told you to pay attention. And nobody gives up, but one's in a car and one's in a wheelchair. So you can guess who wins. And guess what's in the wheelchair? The money. And honestly, it really doesn't look like that much money. I don't know much about money, but I know that doesn't look like a lot. This was not worth it. So Varla's like, hey, get the knife. So Rosie goes over to Billy and the veggie, and she's like, oh, I need the knife back. And he gives her the knife right in the stomach. And Varla is like, oh my god, Rosie, no. So Varla like plows him down. But he's fine. He's fine. So after she plows him down with the car, she tries to bifurcate him. But the veggie's all big and strong, so he uses his man muscles to like stop the car from crushing him. He's using all his big old manly strength. So now Varla gets in the car and she chases down Linda and Kirk, who are running through the desert. It's like, girl, you got the money, go. Like, this is 1965. This is not 2025. Like, you can't just Facebook Varla. I feel like Varla could just take the money and go. Anyways, she feels like it's necessary to run these people down. And it's, how can people outrun a car? Was the question I was asking myself. This girl knows how to drive. She wins races. So they stop. They can't run anymore. And she gets out of the car. So they start fighting. And they're wrestling through the ground, and she's giving him all these unladylike karate chops. So Linda notices that the car is vacant. So she gets in the car, and she plows her down. And as Varla sits there, she attempts to give Kirk one last unladylike karate chop before she collapses back and dies. And that's the end of Varla. And Linda's really upset by this. She's like, oh my god, I killed a person. And he's like, yeah, you did. You did a good job. And then she's like, I did do a good job, didn't I? I saved myself. And Kirk's like, yeah, let's go home. And she's like, well, what do we do with her? And he says, which is probably the most profound final lines of any film I've ever seen. He says,
well, she's not going anywhere.
And then the music starts. Oh, by the way, the music in this movie is just... And that is Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. You know, I thought it was a good film. Overall, I would give it a 30 proof. I'd give it a 40 proof if it were a little bit more self-aware. But overall, like, really, the movie's a gas. So, I'm out of wine, which means I'm out of time. Or as my girl Billy would say,
It's just about past it outside.
So join us next time when we review... What are we going to review? I don't know.
What would you like me to review?
Yeah, that's a good one. What he said. Ask me what you want me to review next. Bye.
Whoops.
If you think that you can tame her, well, just you try.